PR strategist who's worked with the Harvard Kennedy School. Both of them are going to be presenting their content analysis of 2018 congressional websites. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having us. We are going to present the content analysis of 2018 congressional website. My name is Yu Huizhu, and this is I'm a master's student at Boston University College of Communication with a major of marketing communication research, and this is my co-author Brian.
Hi, so I'm Brian Huff, and I'm a PR and communication strategist, and I'm a social media coordinator at an agency in Boston. It's called Version 2 Communications. So we're excited to share our research with you.
So let's jump right into the quick overview of our research. Political leaders have incorporated the internet as the gatekeeper of their political information, facilitators of communication with the audience, and presenter of their political campaign. As the internet signifies its importance in the political communication, having a website for political leader is inevitable. Members of Congress are constantly putting efforts into being attentive and responsive to the needs of constituents he and she is representing through high-end communication staff and using the resources they have. It needs to maintain a close relationship with constituents lies under the urgency of being re-elected by their constituents. Congressional website as a virtual communication tool integrated with various functionalities, allowing congressional members to present themselves, taking political positions, and claiming his or her political actions. It has been embraced as a tool for congressional members to generate consistent two-way communication flow virtually with their constituents. And the unique attributes of the website has allowed the congressional member to generate dialogue with their constituents. And a dialogue leads to connection, which leads to trust, and which leads to engagement. So this paper is about a content analysis examining how the congressional leaders perform on their website in the concept of dialogical communication. And we have some key findings and insights, also the limitations of our research. So let's talk about some theoretical framework. What is dialogical communication? So dialogical communication arises from Bruning's two-way symmetrical communication model that the role of public relations expands from information dissemination and one-way persuasion to two-way communication with the audience. Bruning stated that with the two-way symmetrical model, practitioners use research and dialogue to bring about symbiotic changes in the ideas, attitudes, and behaviors of both their organizations and publics. The dialogue generated by two-way symmetrical communication between the organization and the public form consequences on both the publics and the organization, changing the public's attitude, behavior, and changing the organization's decision. And Kenneth Taylor first incorporated the idea of dialogical communication, which refers to negotiated exchange of ideas and opinions with the World Wide Web. They believe that World Wide Web serves as a convivial tool that conforms to users' needs and desires and integrates with the human subject on dialogical communication. Then those are features of dialogical communication. It has to be collaborative orientated. It has to allow the organization and its public to spontaneously interact with each other, and it has to be supportive of public goals, and the organization and its public have to be willing and committed to the interaction. And some researchers have been down to talk about the criteria for web designers to design a website that in the concept of dialogical communication. And Kenneth Taylor brought up these concepts that define a successful website that allows the organization and its public to communicate on their website. The first is attracting media, which refers to that the website has to grab attention from the media. And the second is easy to use, which refers to the ability of the website that allows the publics to easily to navigate on their website. And the third is media relevance. The website has to provide enough and relevant information for the media. And the fourth is a value-added design, which refers to some consistency of the web design and also the generation of return visits. And the fifth is the most important concept in the dialogic communication, which is the interactivity. And other researchers also brought up similar concepts that defines a successful website that's in the concept of dialogic communication. And our research is about examination of congressional website design. And we brought up the research question, how do the US government congressional leaders embrace today's modern technology? And we further break down our research question into how the congressional leader adapt the concept of dialogic communication on their website. And we also examine other variables such as the year in the office and the geographic region that influence their website design. And our methodology is the content analysis. We selected 100 congressional leaders' website, and we did a content analysis using the 5 constructs drawn from previous research, including 44 variables. And my co-author is going to taking over next.
So just for a little bit of background and context, so a lot of our research stems from one master's student's thesis looking at content analysis of congressional websites. It was really interesting, and sort of to cite sort of one of the leading PR agencies, Edelman PR, they do this trust barometer. So I definitely would recommend looking at that. They have a very interesting data and analytics component of their PR practice. And one of the things, not really in our presentation, but that's interesting to think about, is that there was sort of this, what they've been mapping over several decades, is a general decline in trust, specifically to sort of governmental agencies and political leaders, more stemming into businesses, corporations. There's a lot of CSR initiatives that are being taken on. So what we've noticed sort of with congressional websites is you need to be engaged with your audiences, especially when you have a lot of constituents. You have to be managing a lot of different things, right? People are on their phones, people are on, maybe on a laptop, people are maybe going to town halls, maybe they aren't. So it's sort of interesting to look at these 5 different constructs of our research and sort of to see, generation of return visits, right? We might in the private sector call that regen, conversation with visitors. You see that with chatbots right now with a lot of probably the products that you buy online. And then usefulness of information, so is all the information there? So you're looking at press releases, multimedia, are there different videos, are there social media account integrations, and ease of use, so how easy is it to use the website? A lot of people are on mobile, so is it mobile enabled? A lot of congressional websites are, which is great. It's very easy for you to check on your phone and say, oh, how is my congressman or congresswoman, how are they voting? What issues are they relevant and speaking on that are maybe relevant to like me and my family? And then also just in terms of the amount of time it takes to load a site, that's one of the ease of use characteristics that I think is very important. If you're ever building a website from scratch, the overall load time is really important to take into account because you're not going to wait several minutes for a website to load, right? We're moving so quickly. So these sort of 5 different constructs are very important, we thought, in terms of analyzing the website. So some examples of what to look for. So obviously we looked at over 40, so this is just 4 different examples, but you can sort of see, and if you ever look at congressional websites yourself, you'll sort of see different types of elements like this. Sort of in the top right, there's a pop-up banner. Some websites will incorporate that, some will not. That's a lot of like what you see with like Adidas, right? It's like you see those pop-ups come up and it's trying to engage with you to get you to sign up to a listserv. Congressional websites and congressmen, congresswomen, they'll do the same thing, which is kind of interesting. They'll also, in terms of ease of use, they'll create menus. So that's really easy at the top of the website. It's pretty standard, but it's sort of an overlooked element of websites that make them easy to use. Some congressmen and congresswomen will list their public voting record. Some will make it very difficult to find. So it's sort of interesting to see which ones are a little bit, we might say more transparent, that's an opinion, but which ones have it very proudly pronounced on the website, which ones sort of have it behind different other websites. And then obviously with dialogic loops, having a way to contact and get affiliated directly with your congressman or congresswoman's office. So then some of our key findings. So we found that 90% of websites implemented these accessibility enhancing strategies. So some of what you'll see at the bottom, those are just ways that make the media relevant and interesting to interact with, and just overall make the website easy to use and find out information. It is just interesting sort of the types of elements that certain websites will incorporate over other ones. And it's, you can sort of make up in your own mind, why a certain congressman or congresswoman might, make their website a certain way. Some of them look very similar and some of them look very different. So you'd also wonder, was it the same developer? Were they trying to model, another congressional district within their same state and model the sort of the information after that? So just sort of interesting to see that overall they're all trying to make an effort to make their websites optimized for their audiences. And then just sort of in general, most of the websites would qualify under the first construct that we were analyzing, which is ease of use, just because that's obviously prominent when you're making a website. You want it to be very accessible and easily usable. And just sort of in our comparison analysis, the websites showed sort of lower scores in the 3 areas to the right, which sort of shows that they might not be emphasizing the dialogic loops of ways to communicate. Sort of later you'll see that they're not really emphasizing ways for people to vote on things. It's sort of, we believe these things and this is what happened. Not necessarily asking for feedback as much as we might want to think so, but some congressmen and congresswomen are very interested in allowing a sort of a forum for feedback. So some of them will have surveys, or you might have seen them like polls, and then it's sort of like multiple choice. Click on which ones of the above are you interested in. But sort of very seldom did they incorporate those. And then sort of it's interesting to look at by political party. This was just something we thought might be sort of interesting to look at. So just sort of interesting to see that Democrats embrace dialogic features on their websites more so than Republicans, and then sort of Democrats were sort of more willing to state their political party. Some of them sort of have this general blanket bio that doesn't really explain which party they're for, if they're sort of in congressional district or representing their constituents and they're sort of split. You might not want to necessarily say you're a Democrat if you have a lot of Republican constituents or vice versa. So it's just sort of interesting to see that some are very prominent, but some will also not state anything about that. So then just sort of, this is sort of an analysis of mean comparisons by parties just over the 5 constructs that we set up. And it's sort of interesting, right, that all the, between party, out of these 100 randomly selected websites, they're all sort of doing similar things, which is interesting to see, and sort of gives a little bit of credibility to our research, just showing that we were mapping something that sort of stems between parties and something that is relevant to, that people are taking a look at. And then just a couple of quick stats that what we were talking about before, that 12% set up surveys. You can sort of make up in your own mind why that might be the case, and then 1% give their audience the opportunity to vote on issues. That's kind of interesting, and I'm sure just as congressmen and congresswomen build out their political teams, they'll hire a political director or assistant policy director, and they'll sort of help carve out. They'll go into the district and ask for people's opinions and thoughts. That might be a reason why, and I don't feel that there's necessarily a reason to ask, because they're going out into the district directly and asking themselves. So that's just sort of something that's sort of food for thought. So just in terms of wrapping up, so dialogic communication definitely was a huge component of our research, and just sort of seeing, how do you build relationships with the public, especially if you have a lot of different people, right? If you're sort of marketing one product to a specific audience, it's kind of easy, you sort of know that they will need this product after a certain period of time or over a certain frequency. But when you have constituents that have different families, they have different lifestyles, they have a lot of different interests and just policy preferences, it's sort of hard to create an all-encompassing website that assesses the needs of multiple different types of people. So it's sort of have to walk a very fine line when you're setting up a public-facing internet protocol like that. So that was something that I thought sort of on a research standpoint that we both thought was very interesting. And then why it matters to Congress members, it's very important because the internet is how we communicate, right? Social media and having websites, those, if you're not on the internet, you don't exist, right? I mean, they need to be able to communicate and show directly how they're voting on issues, especially with social media. We see that right now if a congressman or congresswoman isn't making statements on the floor or isn't really representing their constituents, especially in DC, right? I mean, then people will feel upset, and then they'll feel that their congressman or congresswoman isn't representing them, they're not vocal on the issues they care about, especially if they went to a town hall and they felt like they weren't heard. that can then hurt them and then they won't vote for them again. So it's very important to sort of have that communicative nature with how you're showing yourself online, and that will only continue to be more important. And in our paper, we were looking at a lot of the different increases in social media activity. Obviously, as we all know, very mobile enabled, but then also just being very in it. So live tweeting or live messaging, websites will have a lot of integrations into that. But if you don't have those integrations, it might seem as if your congressman or congresswoman isn't doing, as much as they could do. So that's why the internet and the website can be very important. And just in terms of just overall website design, it's just going to be important on information dissemination. So these were sort of the 1, 2, 3 of how we got from the theoretical framework into what we're looking at now.
We also want to give special thanks to Professor Howard Dorns.
Yeah. He was a professor that sort of helped with guiding a lot of this research, and he's a really great professor. I took a couple classes with him at BU, so very big fan. Thanks everyone.